I think our front end equipment is all 4K, 8K, 12K, whatever it is now. All the cameras do all the things.
Yeah.
And then my TV that I can go get at Costco is a 4K TV, right? So
worst case scenario, it's a 4K TV. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. But surely, like, I can just get these two things to talk to each other. But all of that stuff in the middle is actually really, really challenging. Hey everyone, welcome to the Gear Follows Vision podcast. My name is Deron. Today, we're here to talk about how your church's audio, video, and lighting system should serve your church's vision and not the other way around. We have Matt Strong back in the house. Flew all the way in from Charlotte-ish. Charlotte-ish. You're in South Carolina, but I say North Carolina. It's fine. Welcome back to the frozen tundra of Denver.
Thank you. This is awful.
This is why you moved away.
100%.
100%. And for most of you, you've lived in Columbus, Ohio.
That's true. Yep.
Which is equally as good.
Just finished my 11th trip there this year.
Wow.
It's too many.
It's too many. Yeah. Well, I want to talk about some of the things you learned off that project this year, because that was a pretty large 4K UHD install we did. And I don't think people really understand all of the implications when they say, I want to do 4K.
Yeah.
And Blackmagic does 8K now. And please stop that.
So it must be easy.
It has to be. If Blackmagic can do it, everyone can do it.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'd love to talk to that because I think there's a bunch of gotchas. And so I think today is story time with Matt.
Yeah.
On why and how you should do 4K. Maybe not the why yet, but the how you can do 4K. Let's talk about all your landmines that you stepped on.
Just things you don't think about when you think, I see 4K out there, I'm going to do that. And that must be better.
Yes.
That's more Ks than I have now.
I saw it at NAB in 2019. Surely it's time
ready to go.
It's ready to rock.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the first one. I think one of the big things we've talked about is infrastructure is wildly different between UHD, 4K. I don't know. Am I calling that right? Is it both?
I just say UHD.
You just say UHD. Okay. There's probably a difference.
Amateurs would say 4K, but I say UHD.
Classic.
Yeah.
Well, as we're talking about infrastructure, like what is different between the two and what are the limitations?
I'd say the differences are all over the place. From mostly comes down to that your cables can't carry 4K. So the things that are in your walls right now that are running your system great can't carry your 4K system.
I have an S video cable. Is that okay?
That would work so well.
For 2 feet.
Yeah. When you go to UHD, you think about everything. It just starts with the cables. So the cables that are in your walls carrying the same signal that you've been carrying for years. You made the jump from, you went 8-10 years ago, you went from 720p to 1080i and it works on the same cables. That doesn't work anymore. And the same cables that are carrying things 300 feet across your building, you'll get lucky to get it 150 feet. And that's best case scenario. So there's some really simple things that it comes down to. All the cables in your rack aren't going to carry it. All the cables going throughout your building aren't going to carry it. Those are kind of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a Pro Percenter machine at front of house, and I have one on stage for my pastor, and I have one back in video control and one somewhere else. Man, you might not be able to get video signal out of any of those things day one. So it's some of the just really basic things that aren't really fun to talk about, but are the first thing you have to talk about. And then you start looking at other things that are, even more boring to talk about, which are, hey, do I have any plenum spaces? Plenum spaces. A plenum space is an area that's doing air return in your building. So usually if you look up and you see drop ceiling, that's a plenum space. Plenum space needs special cable. The plenum cable for UHD is not only drastically more expensive, but it also carries your signal drastically less distance. So now you're looking at, so let me spend more money for less functionality. Yes. So some things like that, people don't even look at, hey, I need to spend more money on conduit if I'm building a brand new building. Well, why do I have to do that? Well, because you have a bunch of plenum spaces.
And for the nerds at home, you have to run a plenum wire. because if that wire catches on fire, a normal cable will give off a chemical that can kill people.
Yes.
So don't just run into a wire in these plenum spaces.
That's bad.
Run the one that doesn't kill people.
Yes.
Okay.
Pro tip of the day.
Just a pro tip of the day. Well, and the other thing you were talking about a minute ago is like, your 720p cable was running at 1.5 gigs, right, of bandwidth, right? And then your 1080p cable was 3 gigs, right, per second. And then your UHD cable needs to run up to 12 gigs per second in order to get the right bandwidth, that much content through the cable. So it is not the same wire.
Nope.
In any way.
No.
Which makes a lot of sense. So, and then with the plenum spaces, like you were saying, we could run plenum in some environments, and in other environments we can't because it's dangerous.
Yes. And then, I mean, there's some great things now because I'd say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, a lot of our UHD wasn't carried on 12G. So it was, hey, I'm going to run 4 3G SDIs and I'm going to put a really expensive piece of gear on the front end to combine them together, a really expensive piece of gear on the other end to combine them together. Now we're running it over one 12G cable, which is better. But there's just so many more implications on it as well of, hey, I've got a backstage TV that's 220 feet away. You're not getting 12 gig to that TV. Doesn't matter what kind of stuff you're putting on the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The cabling, again, like you're saying, not sexy. And the distance limitation, like in my head, it was back in the day, it was always 300 feet, which I think is the network standard. But, for me, it was like, oh, if we're under 300 feet, we can get there. But I think we found, like, depending on the conditions of how the wire is run, whether or not it has a certain number of bends, right, we might not get 200 feet out of the most premium 12G cable out there.
With the best 12G chip on the end of it. I mean, if you're looking at other Schmack Magic, might not.
They don't sponsor us. It's fine.
Yeah. Black Magic. Not going to work for it's going to be less distance. It's just the quality of the chip in the end that can lock onto that. I've got this much signal on that cable by the time it gets out to 180 feet or whatever it is. And it's even very specific ways of getting it to work, very specific ways of getting a device in the end to lock onto it. Just things people don't want to think about. Right.
Well, because I think our front end equipment is all 4K, 8K, 12K, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
All the cameras do all the things.
Yeah.
And then my TV that I can go get at Costco is a 4K TV, right? So
worst case scenario, it's a 4K TV. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. But surely, like, I can just get these two things to talk to each other. But all of that stuff in the middle is actually really, really challenging.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy for maybe someone in leadership to say, hey, I've got 4K at my house because I've plugged my two things into the HDMI and it looks great. And I'm sure it does. It's a whole different world to go, hey, I need a whole baseband video system that's going to run 4K from end to end with a bunch of different pieces in the middle.
Yeah. Now, talk about this. So a lot of that's related to SDI, RG6 infrastructure, right? Like that we're talking about so far. Now, you can run 12G over network cable, right? Over Cat6 and Cat6A.
Yes.
So talk about that now.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. You can definitely use other ways of transporting your UHD over the network. So there's a few different ways. People are kind of familiar with NDI as a way of doing it. There's some other ways like AV over IP. Some folks like Visionary Solutions do it. Back, you were talking about how much bandwidth things are using. So if we're looking at UHD, that's using 12 gigabits per second. Your endpoints, unless you're getting into super high-end stuff, are all operating at 1 gigabit per second because that's just regular network cables.
So it's 12 gigs. It has to get down to 1 gig.
I can do that math pretty easily, and that's more. So that's math's not mathin'. So they're all doing some sort of compression on the front end and decompression on the back end. A lot of it looks pretty good. Like it's not, I mean, none of us are shooting Star Wars over here. So a lot of it looks pretty good, and it's very high quality and very low latency and easy to manage. But there are some other solutions out there to get your signal to some of those distributed areas. There's also, hey, let's convert this thing to fiber. Let's send a bunch of fiber to another room and then convert it back to baseband where we can distribute it from one location to maybe local destinations there, fiber over to my youth building, and now I can send it to local destinations there. So there's some other ways of doing it as well. Yeah.
And even in like some of those higher end scenarios, they're only getting from like 12 gigs uncompressed to like 10 gigs, right? So like there's always some level of compression with, sending this UHD over the IP network.
Yeah.
So with that compression, would you then recommend, like as people are thinking through a distributed UHD system, if they have to have that, would you recommend then maybe your actual sources into the video system being on this fancy word baseband, SDI for some of us? So getting those into the router in that way, or into the video system in that way, and then just doing distribution through the visionary type solutions or the NDIs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd kind of look at it like a core versus a distributed solution.
Yeah.
Hey, my core, my pro presenters and Pixaras and things like that. My sources are all my cameras, my router, my switcher. Those things are running in UHD, maybe even to my screens. But hey, I need to get video out to the pastor's green room and backstage. Now, do I look at a visionary solutions solution? Do I look at down converting it to 1080 for distribution? There's other things to think about of, hey, I'm distributing this to my lobby TVs. Do I really need UHD for my pre-service graphics roll to my lobby TVs? Or can I throw that feed through a up-down cross converter, knock it down to 1080 and then send it out, where I'm not worried about distance limitation nearly as much? Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little more, because I think that's the dirty back end of UHD systems a lot of times, not all the time, is you need a fair amount of up-down cross conversion to make, whether it's a distributed thing work or even getting to the web stream, right? Like, again, I think your question is, do I really need 4K at the lobby? Do you really need 4K on web streams?
Right. I mean, you think about web stream, and we all want to think about the most ideal. I'm sitting in my home theater and I fired up my stream that's in 4K, or is it I've fired up my iPhone and I'm sitting in my bed and watching this on a 4-inch screen? Like,
Yes.
Do you really need 4K to the web? Do I really need UHD going distributed, or can I be able to throw a couple things in line, knock it down a little bit, and also use my existing infrastructure and save some cost? Rather than upgrading everything downstream, I can send you one cable that has everything and keep that cost at zero for all my distributed stuff.
Yeah, and even with the iPhone web stream thing, like you can go look up the specs on Apple. Like there are not 4,000 pixels on that iPhone.
Nope.
So it's getting converted somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good piece. Okay, so when you think about streaming, like what are the other implications of taking UHD elsewhere?
Yeah. I think there's a couple. You look at how much bandwidth you need to push this content up. So obviously your UHD content, your 4K content is going to take more than your 1080 or your 720 stream. So does your church have the internet connection that can support that in the first place? Reliably. Do you have an IT infrastructure that can do some of the QoS or packet shaping so that you can guarantee that bandwidth to the web, even if everyone gets on their phones and starts using all your bandwidth for your church, which can happen? Your other side might be a really great row LED screen that's doing 4K resolution. I want to see that campus. But it also might be, hey, we're rolling into a high school and I'm using the school's projector to throw onto the screen that rolls down on stage. There's a lot of headache on the front end, or some headache at least on the front end, for not much of a win on the back end. So some of those things are great to look at on the front end. Hey, this looks awesome. This is really great. On the back end, are we really seeing a benefit out of this, or are we doing things to do things?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, especially, and I'm glad you brought up the screens, because I think that's another piece we need to talk about. Like in your school scenario, that could be a projector with a VGA input.
Yes.
Which is not going to reproduce everything accurately.
No.
Let's just say.
Yeah.
But I think also as it comes to LED screens, right? Like getting true 4K pixel space inside of a worship center is not all that common. And when we do see it, it takes a lot of other things on the back end to manage them. So talk about what you've seen with that.
Yeah. I mean, your rooms usually aren't of the size that's going to justify having a 4K pixel space 1-to-1 on the wall, because once you've reached a certain pixel density, you can't see a difference between, hey, I've got this many pixels per inch versus, all right, now I've got 4K. You're not gonna be able to see them. So if that's true, how are we getting our 4K canvas or UHD canvas onto that screen in a way that's high quality? So if I was running a screen manager previously with a 1080 workflow, and now I'm going to UHD, does my screen manager have the processing power to ingest that UHD and to do scaling and to do some color correction if I need to and spit it out? Or do I need to look at a new screen manager? There's some pieces there of like, hey, just because I have this really great image, that image doesn't just plug in everywhere. It needs to go really easily. Not as easy as a HDMI into the back of a TV more often than not. So another example of just, hey, I got to think through this a little bit, because this isn't, my canvas is not, 3840 by 2160. It's
Right.
a little bit different. I think all of these things are just another example of how do I get this great UHD 4K image onto all these different canvases. It's easy to go, hey, I can get on my multi-viewer and it looks great. Great. Other canvases are, how do I get in my lobby? How do I get in broadcast? How do I get it on my LED screen? That's not going to be easy. Yeah. So I think those are the just kind of different implications you have to think through, especially when you're doing a retrofit and you're going from a 1080, 720 system up to another one.
Yeah. Now we're using this word screen manager, and I think it's not unique to us, right? But we have more consistently been recommending a dedicated screen manager is what we're calling it, right? Outside of your video switcher, right? So your video switcher is going to have that content coming through. It's going to have its outputs, but then feeding that into a dedicated box like a Barco E2, an analog way. Sometimes a media server can double as one, right? So I think like you guys just use Pixera as that disguise, right? So there's a lot of different ways, but think of it as like, it's going to take all the inputs from the system in, whether that's your iMag and your Pro presenters or whatever, your backgrounds, and then it's going to lay things out on the screens as needed. Yeah. Right. And so I think that's been a pretty big value add, I think, in the workflows like you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When looking at the screen management as well, the other thing it unlocks is addressing even higher than UHD pixel spaces. Because, hey, if I have a screen that covers my entire width of my stage, plus some couple iMags, we're now well beyond UHD. So how do I address those? It's able to go, I'm going to play out some media across all of these, or I'm going to take in a UHD stream and then be able to pip it onto one of the screens. So many different things you can unlock. Yeah.
And again, all these are implications from going UHD and having this many pixels to play with, and then managing all of them, right? It's a lot of content to manage. I think the last thing I want to just pick your brain on real quick is I don't think people take into consideration how much content this is when they think about archivals and recordings. Yeah. Right? Because it is not just a simple throw this thing on a thumb drive and run it around anymore.
No. You're looking at much more data, and you're looking at...
Some would say 4 times.
Some would say 4 times as much data. Yeah. You're looking at a bunch of different problems, or not problems.
Opportunities.
You're looking at a bunch of different opportunities for something. You are like, there's going to be some different issues of, hey, how do I just record all this at the same time? If you're used to doing an ISO of every camera, plus a clean feed, plus a program feed, plus a multi-view, how am I recording all these things? And how am I storing them for long-term? How am I going to then edit all these things when I'm doing post-production, or if I'm pulling clips for social media? Your media is now much larger, takes longer to work with, put effects on, publish it, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different implications.
Well, and like some of the data points, right? So like maybe a 250 gig file in 1080p is now well over a terabyte for the exact same recording. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And if you look at some other recording solutions like Softron, you can bring in, I believe in a Mac Pro, you can bring in 12 UHD streams at the same time, but you have to throw something like a 32 terabyte solid state drive into it that can keep up with it, because you can almost literally watch it just fill up with data as you just record on everything. You're just
right. And I think the Mac Pro then cooks eggs on the side.
Yes, it has to.
It's on fire.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, and with that 32 terabyte solid state, I mean, you're talking still maybe recording 2 services before you have to offload it.
And then how do you offload it? Where are you offloading it to?
Yeah.
How are you getting it to it later? Yeah. We're not doing this on Dropbox.
Well, we're not. Okay. Well, you can.
It's
going to take a minute.
Dropbox will die.
Now, I think in the Mac Pros, aren't there some different solutions to upgrade the NIC? Didn't we do that recently?
Yeah, you can run 10 gig to the Mac Pro. So if you're Cat 6 and short enough, you can get 10 gig onto a 10 gig switch, and then you need, some back end switching infrastructure to get to maybe one of your edit suites or things like that. If you're further away, you're gonna have to go Cat 6A, I think longer than like 90 feet or something like that. And then you can still get 10 gig to the endpoint, but that'll help. It's not fast. It's not gonna be that fast.
Right.
It's still a lot of data. So it'll help for sure.
Well, and like you said, like thinking through all of your workflows is really important, right? So if there's a church out there who they have a very fast post-production workflow, they want to post-produce a bit of the service or the content or whatever quickly, a fast turnaround, and maybe even a live edit, then these kinds of implications stack up, right? Like you said, it's not just the really, really expensive Mac Pro they need to buy and the Softron and the Delta Cast card. Now it's the NIC, the network infrastructure, and then that edit suite has to be somewhere nearby, or you're going over fiber elsewhere, right?
Yeah, it's just there's a cost to everything. So looking at what's our cost going to be? Is it going to be computers? Is it going to be back-end infrastructure? Is it going to be all the above?
We said yes to all of that. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Matt, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you unpacking some of these landmines we've stepped on when it comes to just slapping 4K across things and doing it in an upgrade.
Do it in a slap.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone online. Please check out some of our other content on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.